Hallo und herzlich willkommen bei Inspirierend. Hier ist wieder euer Luca. Und heute zu Gast der wunderbare Marco Dollenz, den ihr aus vergangenen Episoden schon kommt. Er hat ein wahnsinnig abwechslungsreiches Leben hinter sich. Pornodarsteller, Obdachloser, Schauspieler, DJ, zu Hause auf der ganzen Welt. Sprechen wir heute ganz viel darüber, wie es für ihn war, ein paar Monate auf der Straße zu leben. Wie es ihm dabei ging, was seine Erfahrungen sind, aber auch was seine Erfahrungen als ein Nacktmodel waren, um was es ihm im Leben wirklich geht, warum er sich auch dazu entschied, keine Kinder zu bekommen und viel über AI, Artificial Intelligence, wo das alles hinführt. Aber ohne weitere Umschweife, Marco Dollenz. Yeah, you can.
Well, I guess we're starting now.
Now we're live, Marco. Now we can.
Now we're for real, huh? I was just talking away in our little pre-conversation. So that was wonderful. I listened to myself. It's always hard to listen to yourself. When you want to sound so much more consistent and flowing in the way you tell a story and all that. And I was listening to the last one we did and realizing I would like to rewind a little bit to give a couple of anecdotes from the time I was in Sacramento, going to the Air Force Base and taking art classes and having a girlfriend and all that. And I was working a couple of different restaurant jobs. So I worked at a Mexican restaurant and a Chinese restaurant I worked at for a while, there are some stories. But I was taking some classes at the university, not the university, but the Sacramento City College. And I was offered by somebody who's from the university to do some modeling for an art class. It was just in a conversation. I said, sure, no problem, because they thought I was very well built. It'd be nice for doing these kind of classical type drawings for artists. And that turned into a gig where I ended up doing that for like 3 different universities, in Davis and in Sacramento. And I remember thinking, hey, come on, I'm in really nice shape. People just want to draw me. It's kind of like I'm just going to go in there and show off. And but actually, it was kind of hard. It was like 3 hours, and so you would do many of these gesture drawings in the beginning of a class, but then you would hold a pose for maybe an hour, 45 minutes later on. Tough. And it's a long time to just be very, very still. And the fact that you're nude and I'm like 18 and there's 40 students in their early 20s, I've got very used to being nude in front of a lot of people there, which makes sense later when we talk about working for Playboy and doing some porn in Denmark. So there was that.
That is the background story. That is also a cliffhanger already to keep everybody listening when they want to hear the Playboy and porn stuff.
Yeah. People want to get to that. But there was an intellectual side too. So the whole time I was in Sacramento, I did a lot of reading. I really kind of grew in my reading from the first books that my father had given me to going footnotes and just reading more stuff. I think a lot of my psychology and philosophy came from some of my favorites there, which were like the Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus and all these, because they somehow spoke to me and how I would, handle adverse situations, and basically realizing that I was very much more interested in living life for the experiences that I would store in myself rather than accomplishing sort of exterior material things. So, and that I think is fundamental up until this day, is that the motivations for me wanting to do anything was really sort of like saying, well, that sounds like a really interesting experience, kind of challenging, kind of like getting out of my comfort zone. And if there's a good chance I will survive it, maybe it's worthwhile. So
yeah, actually that explains a lot, because I know some of your stories that we haven't talked about yet. So some of our listeners don't know them yet, but that makes absolutely sense.
It makes a huge amount of sense if I try to explain what my motivations are. It's kind of like the idea of like saying yes to anything and everything that just seems like an amazing thing to put into my mental, into my spirit, into my, repertoire of having done and been. So I think that's another part of that psychology is like doing things until the point where you kind of know what it is. And then saying, okay, once you kind of know what it is and you can imagine the whole infinite future doing that, then you just change it, just do something else.
It's a wrap.
And
let's go on to the next.
That's it. And it can seem very sociopathic if you're talking about relationships, though. So, I always told myself I am not going to be bound to anybody. I'm not going to have children, for instance. I don't want to be responsible. I want to be a child until the day I die, sort of. Mm-hmm. And I somehow have avoided that, having children.
Did you ever regret that?
No. And, to kind of skip to the modern day, I have developed quite a close relationship with a lot of the children from my first cousins. I don't have any brothers or sisters, but I have tons of cousins, which later when I lived in Chile, I got to be pretty close with. And, when I was in Chile, they were very much younger. They were, 10, 12, 11, 12, but now they're in their 20s. And because they know of me, and I have kind of like a mythology about the crazy uncle who lives all around the world doing all kinds of crazy things. And probably when we were younger, my cousins didn't want their children to ever have anything to do with me, hopefully. Now when they're older, he's probably softened up. He's older now, he's probably safe enough to be around. And now I've had quite a few come and visit me, for a week or two. When they come to Europe, they'll try to come around and visit me. And I said, I made this house with extra rooms so that all my nieces and nephews, and of course my cousins, but most of them work and have like serious lives where they can never just take off and go on adventures. So I have an open door policy. During the summer, I rent this place out for vacation rentals. But during the whole winter, any friend or family member or anybody who wants to visit, including yourself, are welcome to come, and you got a room with your name on it here.
Awesome.
So, but that's the type of adventure too, is just letting people just show up.
Yeah.
And
you never regretted not having children, because sometimes, especially, younger girls and boys now, they oftentimes say, oh no, I don't want to bring any kids into this cruel world, and I don't can have kids because I want to make a career, especially women. No, I want to have a career, and I want to really put a lot of time into that. And then suddenly, in their mid-30s, sometimes they wake up and say, oh God, oh man, I really should have had kids. And then they are stuck where they are with a great career, but no really husband material in sight. So that's why I'm asking, because sometimes you have this revelation that, gosh, I was blind when I was 20 and I said I never want to be bound. But for you, still, you're still sticking to your,
I think I do. I think I do. Yeah. I really never questioned that I would want to have kids. I thought, I know that my life is a different type of life, and the way I like to live, the way I like to have my freedoms, to whatever, live on a beach or move to another country, or I don't even allow myself to have pets, because maybe next week I want to like pack a backpack, leave somebody in this house and, go somewhere, and who knows when I will come back. but that gives you the option if you don't have the least amount of strings attached to yourself. And it might seem kind of cold.
I find that responsible, to be honest, because if you know who you are, and you clearly know who you are and what you want from life, then it's sometimes you still get drawn from your surroundings, from your friends who all get kids, who all adopt pets or whatever, that you think, maybe me too. But then 10 years later, you wake up and be like, oh shit, that's just not who I am. And I want to, and therefore I find it very, very responsible from you to say, I know who I am. And I'm built for a different life.
I agree. That's actually the way I look at it. If I really meditate on it and how I feel about it, there's also the thing that I think when I was younger, I really needed a lot of my solitude also. Like I could be extremely social, extroverted. I have the skill and I have the urge, but it would come like in extreme waves where like after some days of being very extroverted and being around a lot of people, then I just need 2 days where I don't even answer a phone call, like I just want to just like completely, I just check out into another dimension until I feel like, coming back or whatever. And when you have social responsibilities like that, especially family and all that, you can never get away from people. You can never be sort of very solitary. And I guess some people do, and they're just very bad parents. So,
True. Yeah. True.
Yeah. They're the ones that lock themselves in a study and don't come out. And I just remember my father being locked in that study.
I mean, somehow after so many conversations that we had, somehow I find it a pity that you don't have children, because you could teach so much to them. On the other hand, I think you still can teach children. It's just not your own children. You still can teach so many people with your life lessons.
I used to think people in their 20s were like fully grown up, but I think we are just at a level of childhood through our whole lives. We have this illusion that we're somehow mature, but how could we possibly be mature in 50 years? I mean, with the amount of material and experiences and the things that the universe has to offer, we're always just at some level of childhood, really. So I think all these younger nieces and nephews that have come around here and friends, there's always an exchange where, we're learning from each other. And I always feel like I learn a whole bunch from young.
Wow, boy. I can feel that, because I'm
learning as much as they are from me, for sure.
Yeah. I was for 5 years, I was a football coach for a youth team. So they were 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and so on for 5 years. And actually, I didn't play any soccer at that time, but my skills improved only through teaching. Not only my soccer skills, but my social skills. They taught me a lot about how their world is working, and a lot of new perspectives on certain matters of life. Yeah. And I was so after I quit that, I was like, damn, they taught me so much. And now it's like, okay, how do I fill this new time with new things?
That's true. One thing about younger people, I think, is that many times they could exercise much more their in-person social skills. They have so much of their energy is dedicated to their online personas and their Instagram and their a bunch of things. And I mean, I even found, them like this last ones with a couple beautiful, my niece came here with her boyfriend. And when they arrived, they were going to just stay like 5 days. They just moved to Madrid from Chile. And he told me, he says, I want you to help me because I want to ask your niece to marry me. I was like, whoa, blown away. I'd only ever been around her when she was like 10 years old, like 15 years ago. She's like 27 now, actually. In Chile, my first cousin's daughter. And now we come here and her boyfriend says, this is such a magic, special place. I want to make this the place where I ask your niece to marry me. So I talked with him and I figured out, that there was this one restaurant that's right next to a cliff that has a private beach underneath. And we'll go there like, hey, it was just a spontaneous idea of mine to stop by there just at sunset, so we could get a drink and they could walk down to that beach, just to go check it out. But he already had the ring and he had everything ready. And it was really a beautiful moment. It was amazing that just spontaneously I got to be, come on, if you're talking about being a parent and experiencing some magic moment with a young person, that was it right there.
True magic.
But what I was going to mention is that, even then they were here for a few days and they might be in the same room and they'd be sending text messages to each other,
Yeah, that is,
It's kind of a funny thing. Like they're both reading something and they see something funny. So they send each other a sticker or something, sitting like 5 meters away. And then the other one is sitting over here and the other one laughed, like, ha, 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 and then looks over at them. They look over there and then she sends him back a sticker or something. And you think, wow, isn't that just crazy? It's somehow, it's funny and you can kind of see how, okay, it's not that poisonous if they kind of are aware of what they're doing. But it's kind of Orwellian when you think that
true.
The technology can actually replace the look in your eyes and the sound of your own voice. It's pretty trippy.
But that's the direction which we are heading, right? It's always getting, or it's getting more and more digital. Also communication. Look at Neuralink, the one company of Elon Musk, where they plant an implant in your head or a chip in your head, and you can kind of communicate through thoughts, which is pretty amazing if you think about it, how technically advanced that is, and that we can at least try doing that. And at least and there are many use cases for that in the world. But
I'm
go
just
100 years
away.
in future, and just imagine everybody's having one Neuralink and is not even using its mouth anymore. It's just communicating through thoughts, which is crazy.
The acceleration of technology to me is like we couldn't even imagine what's going to be in 40 or 50 years. It's just impossible to imagine. Everything that we imagine aliens would be able to do, when it comes to like talking to each other without speaking. Well, hey, we're already doing that with the mobile phones. Right?
Guess what?
Guess what? And if you can actually do it without having to hold a thing in your hand, but you actually just have it attached to the side of your head. And then you can actually just project all the other virtual spaces around the world in the universe in front of you just through the same technology you have in the Apple virtual glasses. Only now you don't need that. You just need a little whatever. Of course. And, in conversations about aliens, you always think, well, these people should be like a million years ahead of us. So it's just ridiculous.
True.
How technology, 30 years ago, we were still running around in little beat up carbureted vehicles that had the only wires that were in them were to turn the headlights on.
Yeah, true.
And to make the spark to make the ignition go off in the engine. That was the only reason the electronics were in the car.
It's crazy how far advanced we got within only 100 years. If you go 100 years from now, it's crazy. Go 200 years from now.
And not only that, but I think it's multiplied by the fact that we're creating a much faster, more intelligent brain than our own. So the AI is going to be able to develop all these technologies like 100 times faster than we would do it naturally with the own speed of our own creative ideas and brains. Now we just tell the super brain what we're kind of trying to do, and it just does it, warp drive, right? It's like, what?
Yeah. Marco, I want to know your take on this thought. we as the human species are the, so to say, the mechanic caterpillar. So we're building a cocoon, and we don't know what's coming out, but it's called AI, and maybe it's a butterfly, and we are kind of giving birth to this new kind of intelligence, which is
right.
I don't know where it's going, what it's doing, if it's leaving the planet and let us stay behind, or if it's killing us all, or whatever. But what is your take on this theory that we giving birth to something we don't really know?
I really do. I mean, I think it's a not natural, obvious thing, because we're creating something that very probably will be conscious. I mean, we have such a limited idea of what conscious, or even a sort of incomplete idea. We don't even know really the nature of consciousness.
We know our human consciousness, but maybe there is a different
we can
consciousness.
Give it certain attributes, and I mean, we kind of know we are kind of Descartes, right? I mean, I am because I think I am. So
yeah.
You know, I mean, I've met people that I don't think are so conscious.
Yeah, but
and
true.
You think,
look at so many people in the world who are not conscious of what they are doing, who are just doing, hustling, working, earning money, going home, having a fight with their spouse and children, going back to work again next day and again and again until they die.
I've always thought of kind of as the way we're created or brought up by our parents and the society's sort of principles that we may become a little bit rebellious about, you know, in politics and different things. But basically, we are part of a particular culture. And I think I've gotten a pretty clear insight into like, and even only Western countries, because I've only been in Europe, South America, and North America. But you can see very, very solid differences, even though they're pretty subtle, from one country to another, you know, in how people are, how people function, what their pyramid of values is, you know, what they think is important. All these things are just a little different in every country. And you think of it as like we do have a type of software in us that functions with a type of algorithm. You know, I mean, and if you do want to live in harmony and in sort of a cooperative, good, upstanding citizen in any society, you do have to do your very best, you know, to adopt and become that algorithm. You know, that's if you don't want to have any problems in your life. You want to kind of like do things the way you should do them, the way everybody's telling you should, because, you know, you're going to be happy. We'll guarantee you're going to make money. You're going to be not having any problems, and you'll get your benefits at the end. And, you know, so, yeah, I think we are strictly caught up in a, you know, either you're going to follow the rail line and be in harmony with the system, or you're not. And
but I think the new generations that are born or that are entering the workplace now, they are more driven from purpose than from just working for money. Like our parents, or for me, parents, my generation, we are more like, yeah, we need a safe. You lived in Germany for some time, so you know we are really security driven. So we need a stable job. The best one is a lifelong work contract. That would be the absolute best to have.
It just the idea is like, or I mean, it is an Orwell. I mean, Orwell is called Orwellian because of true systems that we have to try to abide to in society.
I think the next generation is more purpose driven. Like they are more looking for jobs that give them a purpose, that they feel good about doing, not feel good about the money, but feel good about doing, giving something back to the world, making the world a better place. Don't you think so?
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's a huge step. I wish that was more. I mean, I hope that becomes much more abundant, but I do believe that people are more preoccupied with their well-being now, and that their well-being, it cannot be completely rooted in how successful they are at work. So I agree with that. I've never had that issue of being a sort of ambitious and thinking that I was going to construct any kind of normal life anywhere.
Yeah.
I think to the degree that you're not worried about the consequences of that, you know, for instance, not having anything, just leaving everything behind and walking naked off into horizon, is when you've experimented it a couple times, you realize it's not that bad. Then you feel that I've felt that I'm very free to do whatever the hell. I mean, you know, very most likely I'm not going to die from the experiment.
Mm-hmm. Can you?
I think that's necessary. I think it's necessary to give people a little bit of, if possible, and I think that they're getting that from what you just said, give them the idea that they can take many more risks in their life and they can experiment much more. And that losing stuff is just stuff. You can always get more stuff. Every time I've left an apartment behind and not seen it again, full of my furniture and my books and my paintings on the wall and everything else, and a closet full of clothing, I can get someplace else and get some other furniture, some other books, and some other clothes to stick in a closet, and it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, you get over it pretty fast. I think
stuff very easy. It's a little bit reminds me of that saying about experience. You know, that people realize that they regret the things they didn't do more than more than regretting things that they did. And it's kind of like hanging on to stuff and securing, you know, your material is just a complete waste of time. Like, you'll never regret walking away from stuff that much. What you could regret is having strove so hard to protect that stuff. Yeah. That is much more of a danger. Leave that car on the side of the road, walk out of that house, don't walk in it again, leave that furniture and those books and those things and go some other place, and you can acquire all that stuff again, not without that much difficulty.
Yeah, I agree 100%. For me, I had some experiences where I was getting rid of a lot of stuff because I moved to Brazil, for instance, and I couldn't take everything. Of course, you can't take everything to Brazil. You have to leave stuff behind or throw it away. And then I came back to Germany, and I saw all the stuff that I stored in boxes in my parents' house, and I was like, gosh, I didn't need that stuff for 2 years now. Do I really need it? And I threw away so much, 90% of it, only like plates and cutlery I kept because that's what I really needed. But it
really is crazy.
So relieving. That was so good to have.
Yeah.
To have less it's such a awesome feeling.
It really is. And I learned that lesson very young, that also just not to take very much. Even though you have an option to take a couple of bags with you, if you can, now when I travel for a month or something, or even longer, you can usually fit everything in a backpack. I don't need a suitcase. I don't need even a carry-on. I can put it in pretty much in a backpack and be pretty comfortable. Just have to select the items that you will use, and then you can always acquire some other items when you're there.
If really something is missing, you always get it.
Physical freedom. Luggage is always like when you see people in an airport or getting on a train, it's like a ball and chain. They're attached to this thing full of stuff. It's like
that's a good picture. True. That's a good picture, because often
they're just dragging along this thing. And it's so funny. And everybody who's visited me, I've always questioned, did you use all the clothes in that suitcase? I mean, I'm just curious. And they're like, oh my God, no, half the stuff I never even put on.
Yeah.
They say, hey, well, just in case I'm going to take this one. And just in case I might take that. And they don't end up using 60% of what they have in that bag.
But I'm guilty of that too sometimes, because I sometimes go traveling somewhere for a week or two and I pack my whole suitcase, and then I go home or I arrive home again, and I'm like, I don't even need to wash half the stuff because I didn't use it. I wear the same t-shirts or shirts for a couple of days. I could wash there. I didn't wear t-shirts at all because I only was at the beach or it was so hot or whatever. You don't need. And now
literally, it depends. I like to try to go and have different types of experiences. So I want to be able to go to the opera, maybe. if I want,
maybe,
but basically I'm going to probably be on a beach, and I'll be in a fancy restaurant maybe at some point, but whatever. So I'll say, okay, pants, shorts, some kind of athletic shoes, maybe some dress shoes if I might go to fancy places, sandals, 2 t-shirts, a button shirt. It depends on if it's winter or not. And if it's winter, I'll usually take my dress coat and then put a heavier coat over it to travel on the train or whatever. So you just have but basically you can adapt to a variety of situations, just having just the minimum amount of elements that you need.
How do you avoid buying and storing and stashing more and more stuff in your life? Because the society is suggesting to us that we all the time need more clothes, we need more books, we need more things in our lives. How do you avoid stuffing your apartment?
Well, one of the things the reasons I avoid is part of the way I can be very, very free is being very austere. So I don't make anywhere near as much money as a lot of my friends make. I keep my things really simple. I don't have kids I'm putting through school. I don't have a lot of things. I do most of my entertaining with food. I invite people. I love to cook. So I can cook a lot of nice things and with wine, and I have a nice place to entertain people. Normally when I go to places, I'll order a tapa. Here in Spain, you order small things to snack and wine to converse with friends. And that's it. I avoid moving my car very much. I have an old German Audi with a 6-cylinder and a twin turbo, and I like the car because it's very comfortable to drive, but it sucks so much gasoline that I try to leave it parked and not move it as much as possible. And I don't have to leave this town very much, only to go into Cadiz sometimes. You know where I am, I guess. Yeah. In Conil de la Frontera. I was like, And so basically, I have electricity. I've got a little bit of gasoline, entertainment costs. I mean, I don't spend a lot of money. And one of the ways of doing that is, if I have one of my favorite shirts that I use for, going out or whatever, and it gets a little hole or drops a butt, I fix things. I'll take it to the seamstress and I'll have her fix things. I have some jeans that I thought, okay, that hole's pretty bad. But you know what? It could look pretty cool and look like I meant it to be that way if I just have the string and put a patch on the inside and put some crazy colored string on the patch. And then she goes, yeah, that doesn't look bad. I'm like, come on, it looks great. Sometimes I'll be wearing things that look like, wow, where did you get that? That's a cool little patchy hole you have there. Yeah, well, actually, it's a naturally developed one.
Yeah, it's a self-made.
Yeah. So I think there's something to that 19th century attitude of just buying nice quality. I like nice quality things, but actually fix them. You don't know how many times I've taken shoes to the shoe guy, to fix a little hole or to replace because they're comfortable, they're nice. You don't have to. I'm not much of a consumer. I have nice quality things, but I just fix them.
Yeah,
and so I don't spend a lot of money.
Your behavior is the death of capitalism, I suppose.
Exactly. Yeah. Karl Marx would approve of my.
Yeah, absolutely. But every capitalist would, oh God, we need to sell him more. He needs to spend more money, this guy.
Well, what do I spend? I consume, I'm a great contribution to the capitalism of my local community because I must visit every bar and every restaurant, always, I don't mind spending money for enjoying the moment with people.
Mm-hmm.
So I can go with a couple of friends that and just say, you know what, I really want to have a conversation and have a couple of drinks with these guys. And I can spend 150 euros sitting with a couple of people. I just want to spend a couple hours and really enjoy it with. That doesn't cost me. Is not hard for me at all. But I will never easily spend 150 on a pair of tennis shoes.
Mm-hmm.
But I will easily spend it on a couple of bottles of wine and some good food with some good friends. Just like that. I mean, no question.
Other priorities, other areas of capitalism that you are spending your money in a little bit, so to say.
Yeah, I don't know if that type of I guess it's a luxurious sort of hedonistic thing where you want to really enjoy the moment. And of course, I guess that's part of it. It's a consumer. It fits to you
because you said in the beginning you are collecting moments, you're collecting memories with beloved ones. And not collecting things and stuff. So it just makes sense that what you have, you spend in more moments. Yeah, more memories.
Yeah, moments. So, and I think, wealth. We were talking about this with a couple of friends of mine, where two other extreme versions of that. I have some friends that have a lot of money and a lot of wealth in California. But when I visit them, one of the things I always notice is I'm going to have to tell them very far in advance that I'm coming to visit. And I'm going to have to say, hey, I'm going to be there from this week to that week. Maybe we can get together and let me get back to you. And then it's going to be maybe Tuesday between 2 and 4 or something like that.
And you're like, contrast I don't know.
and they always seem a little bit like they're really trying to work out how to do it. And when they see me, half of their brain is like in other responsibilities they've got, and they try to connect with me, and then they go back to this swirling tempest of concerns that they have with the 3 banks and the investment guy and the this and the that and the other thing, and you think, wow, well, what good is all those millions of dollars you have if you're not free in any given moment, for instance.
Yeah.
You're sitting here with somebody that might be spiritually or emotionally or something important to you, but you can't enjoy it because you are completely wrapped up with all this other stuff that's got you sort of.
Yeah, you're a slave to your things.
Yeah.
You think they make you more free buying a car that is faster, a house that is bigger.
Sure.
But at the end of it's a golden cave, so to say. It's keeping you in
golden cage
and locked.
So I think over the time, I've developed a concept that freedom with your time is wealth. So if I can do what I want, with whom I want, when I want, that is wealth.
Yeah,
that's being rich.
And that is also coming back to Stoicism. Because one of the things, I don't know if it's Seneca or Epictetus who says it, but he says, you are easy on your purse. You spend, you are not easy on your purse because you think twice before you spend money on something expensive, but you're easy with your time. Someone comes and asks you for your time and you're like, oh yeah, sure, let's have a chat, even though you don't want to have a chat. So the priority you should give time is should be much higher than for money, because that's the most important thing you have. Everybody steals money, steals time from you.
The only thing that you really have, apart from there's that other fourth dimension, right? Is the time. That's where in that dimension is where any other quality you have can actually take place or manifest itself. Is in time, right? So time, and it's very limited. We actually have to use up almost a third of it just to rest, so to be equipped to handle the other 2/3. It's like, man, do I have to actually be completely unconscious for 8 hours? Could be doing all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But we do need.
Yeah.
It's like charging the battery on a phone. You can only use it if you like plug it in a wall somewhere for like 4 hours. Otherwise, it's no good.
How do you think about, if we talk about time, how do you think about death and dying sometime? How do you think the end of life?
I somehow, I've just not been concerned with it. In fact, I've always, when I contemplate when I'll die, in fact, one of the most more morbid kind of like meditations I like to imagine is just trying to imagine like a snapshot of my face, like moments after I'm dead. And just like, this is what I look like dead, right? You don't know if it was from cancer or a gunshot or being hit by a car or something, but if I could just see my face, the expression that's on it, so seconds after I've stopped breathing, and just try to meditate on like, okay, well, at some point, my face will have that tone of being dead for the last few minutes. And I think, whether it's going to be at 80 or next week from some, thing, it's going to happen. I'm definitely going to be dead. Realizing that you're going to be dead is just like trying to die in a little bit of style, at least. I don't want to slip in the shower. If I'm going, if I'm going 180 on a motorcycle, at least there's some glamour to that. I don't know. Or maybe, being caught in a gunfight, or I don't know. I just don't want to have a silly death,
Yeah. It's like going free climbing. Going free climbing. Everybody knows, boy, what are you doing? One small mistake and you die, and then everybody's around your coffin, and it's like, yeah, man, we are so sad, but that he's dead. But
obviously it was coming.
I mean, he could have avoided
it. He had it coming.
Yeah.
And then, looking on the bright side, they always say, well, come on, he did doing what he really loved,
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Well, you could say that about, drug addicts, he just did a little too much.
He was so happy.
But at least he did what he really loved to do.
If you could have seen the smile on his face, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, man, this shit is good. It's like,
and it's out.
But I'm thinking, I certainly want to die young enough to not be like, I'm not concerned about sort of dying if I'm already getting older. I want to live well. And the moment my quality of my life is not very good. I'm a high supporter of euthanasia, but I would make it a much lower standard. That if you're just not happy, man, and it's not worthwhile, then don't. So, I'm really not concerned about dying, but I don't want to die in a long, extended, being sick or being in a clinic or
machines are keeping you alive or something
if I'm really not enjoying every day of my life, I don't think it's worthwhile. I think there's enough of us and life is abundant enough. It's not that important that I keep going on. There's plenty of people that can keep going on and remember me in my name. I don't think I'm that important.
Neither should you, I think, because you aren't. No one of us is, because what I always think when I think about death and dying, and if I'm standing before a big risk I'm going to take or a big decision I'm about to have to decide on, I'm always like, what is going to happen after my death? I think 99% of the people I know are going to forget me within the first 6 months. And the last percent, maybe a few years, but then, maybe they die on their own or they forget me. So why should I care what anybody thinks about my decisions now?
I take the last few, in the last 3 or 4 years, I think I've had like 6 or 7 people that I knew pretty well die around my age from different things. Motorcycle accident, 2 from cancer, one from an overdose of something, A couple that I never got the information don't know exactly. There's one of them, I think it was a heart attack, and you think the guy was like a super athletic, was giving martial arts classes in the park to people, and he was like my age, super fit. How does that guy like that die from a heart attack or a cardiac arrest? Somebody's been trying to explain to me there's different versions of what that means. But basically your heart stopped. I don't know. I really, I'm not that concerned. I don't think I give that much thought to death. When it comes, well, obviously you won't notice because you'll be dead.
True. Sometimes you see the signs, but it's also, I'm more on your side that I say, I don't need to live until I'm 100. Doesn't matter how I am living there, but I need to get 100. But it's more like the quality of life. And that's also influencing my decisions at the moment. So do I work out? Yeah. Do I do cold baths or whatever to make sure in years I still have a good quality of life, that I can still walk, that I can still grab my great grandchildren and pull them up in the air and fly with them and stuff like that.
Yeah, or whatever you're into, you can still enjoy hiring 3 high-class call girls and, give them a good ride, Like, if I can do that when I'm 80, then life's worth living.
Yeah.
I don't know.
True that.
Big extreme joke.
Hey, if you can do that with 80, that's
hey man,
well, you are fit.
Life is worth living, But I don't, even with exercise and all these things, I think I train myself with everything to do it to the degree that I enjoy it. That nothing of any of your process should be more of a struggle than a dance. I think when I exercise, it's because I really enjoy doing that, and I don't enjoy doing it for very long, so I don't spend more than 15 minutes training. I'll go and work on a couple of muscles. I enjoy walking around the gym, making jokes. I'll talk to a couple of people. I'll do a little exercise. It's just kind of like, it's a stop, it's kind of like being at the vegetable shop. Yeah. Now I'm in the gym.
I agree with you that the things you do, you should enjoy them.
You should enjoy it.
But
if you don't enjoy it, don't do it.
Yeah, but I also would say, I would add that sometimes it's okay to enjoy it afterwards, after you've done the thing. So, example, cold showers. For me, I do cold showers.
The achievement of it.
Yeah, if you are under the cold shower, it's no pleasure at all. But you step out and you feel like, wow, God, I feel amazing. And that's like, okay, it's worth the pain, so to say.
Yeah. Okay, but I mean, you're talking about seconds later or moment later,
or even minutes or hours.
But you are enjoying it because you're doing something that's very strange. You're getting high. I mean, when you do a lot of weight training or things like that, or bar work, calisthenics, and you get into the routine of it, you get a high from getting that pump of all that blood in your muscles, and wow, you feel really powerful for an hour. Your body's all fixed up like that. It's a high, and if you can get to doing that because you enjoy it, well, it's also good for you.
True.
So there's ways of tricking yourself into doing things that are fun and enjoyable, and they also happen to be good for you.
Yeah, absolutely. But what I would add to that too is, and where I wanted to go, that it's sometimes okay to have the pleasure afterwards, because I oftentimes hear from younger people that they try out a new profession. They go solopreneur for, I don't know, digital marketing or whatever. And then they build up their business, and after a few months they see, it's not growing like I want it to be. I don't have the success I want to have. So there's an obstacle. So it's not meant to be. So I'm just going to the next thing. And I'm always like, but I mean, you should give it a little bit more time. And it's okay that it's not 100% of the time only pleasure. There are times in your life where it's dark and where it's painful and where the pleasure comes afterwards.
Sure. I mean, I think I could throw in a bunch of my impulsive adventures, knowing that I'm going to go into a long, dark phase, and who knows how the hell I'm going to get out. Yeah. Like when I decided, hey, fuck it, I could use a little discipline, and I go into the Air Force at police academy. It's completely different from anything anybody would predict I would do. But I know that I'm in there for some good time, and it's probably not going to be a pleasure, but the satisfaction when you actually make it out is, yeah, I see what you mean. Or the I guess the first couple times I decided, hey, I tried being homeless when I was like 14, living in New York with my father. Mm-hmm. It's not actually that hard. It's not that big of a deal. And so when some tight financial situation and some discussion where I'm living, I said, fuck it, it's like springtime. I can go live on the beach in LA. It's no big deal. How hard can it be? There's a gym, where I can work out and take a shower. All I need to do is find a nice, safe place to sleep at night and, pay for a small storage to keep my things in, get a bicycle. How hard is that? Mm-hmm. And actually that happened to turn out to be a great pleasure. I never felt freer in my life. But the first 3 weeks or so, you're really trying to figure it out, how to relax, how to feel at home, when you don't go inside somewhere and be able to close the door and lock it. Yeah. You're sitting on a park bench or sitting in a cafe or whatever, you're always a little bit like, I'm out in the world. So you kind of accustomed to relaxing only when you can get home and close the door behind you. And now you're alone in your home and now you can rest. Yeah. So you have to learn how to rest no matter where you are out in the world. Yeah. That is the hardest thing.
I can't imagine.
Being able to.
Why did you, how did you come up with that idea to live on the street for a few, I don't know, how long did you do that?
Well, I never did it for more than 3 months. So I did it one time. Yeah. So there's a point where I'll tell you a little story from after I was in LA wandering for a while. I did some photos. I did something for Playboy. I did something for Playgirl magazine. So I come up on the cover. I'm on the cover of Playgirl in 1991. And I get invited to a TV show in New York by Joan Rivers, who was very well known at that time, 91. So they say, you want to come out and do this show. It'll be 2 days in a row. And they put me in Trump's Plaza Hotel back in 1991. And for some reason, I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to make my flight because they'll pick me up in a limousine and they'll take me into the hotel. And then after the show, the limousine will take me back to the airport. And I said, well, if I make the trip for 2 weeks, then they'll say, yeah, we'll just send a limo wherever you are, when you need it to get back to the airport. Okay, fine. So I figured I would just surprise my father. And then I would just come and visit him in New York because he lived there. And because we had talked a bit and he seemed to be friendly. And I thought, hey, it might be a great opportunity. I'll just surprise him and I'll just come and visit him and stay for a couple of weeks. Anyway, so I did the TV show and I called him up after the day after the show. And I had to check out the next day from the hotel, Trump's hotel. And he's like, you're in New York? And what, you think you're going to come and stay at my house? Well, forget it. You're not coming to stay at my house. Goodbye. So I'm just like, whoa. So what happened there was that was the first time I actually was kind of homeless, not like just being locked out of his house. But it's kind of interesting that it was directly related to him again.
Yeah, again.
So I was 2 weeks that time homeless in New York City. And basically, many of the nights I would meet some, and I'd just been on a national television show. So people would actually recognize me when I'd start talking to them in a bar or something. So I had many lucky nights with, cocktail waitresses and people inviting me to parties and things like that. But I must have had like 4 nights out of those 2 weeks where I would, basically be, sleeping, sitting in a 24-hour coffee shop or, whatever I had to do. But basically I didn't have a home for 2 weeks and it actually seemed pretty easy. And the fun thing was that I was regularing in the afternoon. I'd kind of like go into a lull in the afternoon, and there was this coffee shop where I'd always chat with this waitress. Mm-hmm. And I kind of run out of money too. I didn't have much money. So I was in there, counting my change, getting my cup of coffee, and I'd sit there for a long time. And she'd be like, "Don't you have a house?" "No, I live in LA. I'm kind of stuck here for another week. But hey, when I'm going to take off back to LA, they're going to come get me in a limo." And I kind of said it in an exaggerated way. She's like, "Oh, you're so silly." And I'm like, yeah, no, back in LA, and I got, they're going to pick me up in a limo, take me to the airport. Anyway, I made a point of the day that I was going to get taken back for the flight. I was there in the afternoon when she was working, and I had the limo come and pick me up at the coffee shop. Yeah. And she's like, "Wow, there's a limo out there."
You didn't lie.
And he comes in and says, "Yeah, I'm looking for Marco Dollenz."
Yeah, that's me.
That's me. Cheryl,
yeah.
I'll see you next time I'm in New York. I thought that was like a movie scene. It was very iconic. Yeah. I kind of planned that one. Anyway, that was the first time I was homeless. And I think the next couple times were like almost 10 years later and another 10 years later. Last time I tried it was in 2014. Mm-hmm. Another story. But I felt really, really, really comfortable. And I think I had that feeling always kind of like when I was younger that I was kind of out in the world anyway, especially in New York. So when...
But why did you do it? Why did you... Was it a conscious decision that you said, no, now I'm going to live 3 months on the street? Or was there any project?
Yeah, or a month or two or however long. And it just seemed like a natural, easy thing because it was no big deal. Mm-hmm. All I needed was a storage and a sleeping bag. And if it's nice weather, especially both the next times we're in LA and it was during spring or summertime. Mm-hmm. And usually it was like, I'm spending a shitload of money and not even getting, or maybe not getting along with whoever I'm staying with because of hours or whatever. The last time I was there, I was trying to get a visa to come back to Spain with a visa. So I went to San Francisco in 2014. And I was staying with a good friend of mine who said, "Come and stay as long as you like at my place." And so we would have late night discussions and everything. And I'd offered him $400 a month to stay in the extra room he had, which he would Airbnb. So when he actually had an Airbnb, I would sleep on the couch. Okay. And I'd gotten a job working. I was looking for a barman work at the sidewalk cafe in Venice Beach. They hired me, but as a security guy, which was kind of crazy. I was like, well, I wanted to be a bartender, but they said, we need somebody in security. So you seem like you can talk better. So you can be at the front door. And then there were some big guys in there who would just be there in case of real trouble. So I would just be the guy at the door. And so I was doing that, working there and spending my time training a little bit and visiting friends in LA. And basically at some point, somebody offered him like $800 just to rent the room in his apartment. And I wasn't going to pay him $800. I'd offered him $400. So he said, well, you could just continue sleeping on the couch in the living room. But he was always working on his computers, programming, doing things like that at night. So there's a little light on. And I just said, well, you know what? I would be much better off sleeping on the beach than sleeping on the couch here in his living room. And then I wouldn't even have to pay him any money. And so I said, well, I've done it before. I did it in 2001 and I did it before. And it is kind of a challenge. You think, especially back in 2014, there was many more people living outside there that than there was back in the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, well, I can actually live luxuriously as a homeless person. I'm sure of that. I can have my routine where I sleep a good solid amount of hours. If I go to sleep early, like 10 o'clock, as soon as it gets dark, sleep, get up at 6 a.m. before the police come around. I developed my techniques. So I would sleep on top of the lifeguard stations. And especially I'd ride out towards Malibu once it would get dark on the bike path, and then just have a little backpack and a sleeping bag, and you lock your bike further up the street, up the beach, next to the homes, walk out to the lifeguard station. And instead of getting up on the station where people come out there with a bottle and there'll be young kids that'll come out there and drink. And then there's the patrols that come up and down the beach. But you just get up and climb up onto the rooftop of the lifeguard station. And as soon as you lay flat, you can't see you up there unless you're a few hundred meters away, and especially not at night. And they're not going to get up on top to look and see if there's anybody laying up there. So I slept every night on the top of the lifeguard stations with a sleeping bag. I was just listening to the waves and just sleeping like a baby. Huh?
Yeah, but weren't you afraid of falling down? Because that's like a few meters high.
No, they're about 5 square meters,
Okay, okay. I had a smaller impression in my head. Okay, yeah. So they're pretty big.
Send you a snapshot of what the lifeguard stations look like. So I found my spots, and then I experimented a little bit. There was this building that they were working on that had scaffolding outside, like a new building. There in Marina del Rey, and I realized I could park my bike and climb up the scaffolding and get up onto like the 3rd floor scaffolding and just sleep there. And like a month and a half later, that was one of my spots. And I remember going up there and laying down and all of a sudden looking inside like the window. And of course they were still working on the place, but it seemed that somebody had moved into the apartment into the 3rd floor, because I saw like little movements and some light sort of in the window towards the kitchen. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, I gotta sneak off of this thing, because if they notice that somebody's out here on the scaffolding, they're going to call the police, and the police there in Venice Beach in LA are no joke. So they're going to think somebody's like climbing up to get in their apartment or something. So I remember laying super still, noticing somebody's in there, laying and, trying to get some sleep on the scaffolding. And then all of a sudden they turned off whatever little light from the kitchen thing and disappeared. And I was like, whoa. And then I tried to ninja my way back down off the scaffolding and find me something safer, like a lifeguard station. But anyway, what's the point of that?
Now you were telling.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had spent 2 months in my buddy's place, going back and forth from the room to the couch, and dealing with him and people coming in and out, and him working on the computer. I slept infinitely better out on the lifeguard stations. And I would get up and just go train on the bars. I'd go to the gym, because I just got in the gym, take a shower, do all my things, hang around my coffee shops and do things. And
how did you earn money? How did you earn money?
Or I was working at the bar at the sidewalk cafe.
True. Yeah, you were the security guy. Yeah. True.
Yeah. And
so many people, Marco. So many people are afraid of living on the street.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things I was going to say. I mean, if you can figure out how to live sort of healthy and in style, because a lot of the people that live on the street they're very, very miserable. Yeah, they have completely different idea of what they wanted in their life, and there's many people with mental problems, many people with drug problems. Mostly drug problems. So there's very few people that are making sort of a adventure travel experience out of living outside.
Yeah. Also, not really every country and every season is made for that kind of living. If you are, especially in Germany in the winter, it's like, and they're not. Yeah, you like to have it a little bit hotter.
It's a very positive temporary adventure experience to see if you can maintain some sort of psychological healthy balance. Yeah. being in that situation. And I had a lot of practice, so it was no big deal. And if you're on a beach and it's spring or summertime, all you need is a safe place to keep your things, safe place, agreeable place to sleep, and, and have your whatever income. In fact, I had much more income considering I had no bills.
Yeah, true. You were saving a lot on rent and other stuff. True.
Yeah. And, finally I couldn't get the visa. It wasn't that easy. So I just came back to Spain and, made myself a, sort of a partner with the girl that I was, interested in Madrid. And, so that was that experience living on the beach.
Awesome. I mean,
but there was a lot of interest. There was a lot of interesting experiences with the living out there. Yeah,
I can only imagine what else you.
Yeah, the people you can run into.
Yeah, I mean, if you live on the street, what the picture I think most of the people have from people who live on the street are homeless people, like addicts, drug addicts, people who have problems in their life, who lost everything maybe and are forced to live on the street.
Sure, and that's probably like 80%. But you have a lot of actually intellectually inclined and smart people who've just like either dipped into an adverse situation, but they actually make quite the best of their situation.
And that's always the thing, right? It doesn't matter what.
Myself.
Yeah, and that's always also something that Stoicism or philosophy oftentimes teaches you to. It doesn't matter what shit gets thrown at you from life. Make something out of it. Yeah, the obstacle is the way.
And sort of the skills you develop to maintain your mental, emotional balance, and actually spend some time also talking to the people who are out there and know them by name and know their stories. That was remarkable. Yeah. In fact, and completely different than what you would expect. And when you don't have a house to go and lock yourself into, you've got a lot of time on your hands to observe, people and the things that are around you and in any given neighborhood. I mean, you get to know, the people who own the different shops, at what time they go in and what time they go out, and who's the guy in the wheelchair sitting in front of that coffee shop between this hour and this hour, and their names and their story. You end up, especially if you're social, I mean, I'll end up talking to every single one of them and knowing exact kind of their story, and they have whole lives and sense of humor, and it's so much wealth of things that you can get from that experience. And the emotional and physical survival skill of because if you're not afraid of that, that's the worst thing that most people can be afraid of. Yeah. It's like, oh my God, if I lost everything, was on the street,
what should I do?
Well, you know what? If you can experiment it and figure out that that's not even that bad, then maybe you can take all kinds of other risks in your life, because the worst that can happen, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, and I think that is one of the key takeaways I took from your story, that if you can survive that, then you shouldn't be afraid of any other kind of decision or consequence that is built around a risk that
if you're not afraid of the consequence.
As you said, that's one of the biggest fears that many of the people has, the majority of people has, because it's like you live in the secure world. You have your house, your apartment, your surroundings, your support system, whatever. Everything is secure. And to lose this would mean losing everything.
Everything.
And everything of you is connected to have your house, your things, your stuff, your personality is connected to these things. And if you lose them, who are you?
Sure, exactly. There's something very key about that. And I think the first time I experimented it is when you're really stuck with just yourself, and you realize that if you're happy in yourself, I mean, wherever you go, there you are. And that's something nothing can take away from you. So if you accumulate all these things that that enrich your interior life, you know, if you're sitting alone, naked on the bench, on the whatever, and you're alone there and you have no access to almost anything, are you content just sitting there alone with yourself? And if you're content with that, you are fucking like a super powerful.
Yeah.
Because then you can go through the world without that fear of exactly that you're saying. The fear of losing everything. Well, everything that's important you have inside you.
Yeah.
Like I like that saying, the most important things in the world aren't things.
Yeah, that's true. And that's also that's also what philosophy and stoicism oftentimes teaches you. And I would say, Marco, we talked for over an hour already again. I would say we ended on that philosophical quote that you just said, yeah? The most important things
in life aren't things.
Yeah, that's awesome. Marco, tell everybody where they can find you if you want to keep up with the stuff that you're doing.
Well, that would be great. I live here in Andalusia in Spain. I have an Instagram. You can find me on every social platform as Marco Dollenz, with a Z on the end. You have my name written there. I'm having so much fun here, producing some events now for Spanish events for mostly German foreigners that live here in this area.
Awesome.
Making these activity brunches with, so that's fun. You can find me on SoundCloud. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on all those platforms.
Nice.
But you can just punch my name into Google.
And it will spit it out.
It'll spit out all kinds of stuff.
And if you're interested in more of Marco's story, listen back to the episodes we already recorded and stay tuned for more with us to come in the future. Marco, thank you for being here again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Luca.
And guys, thank you for listening again. I hope you enjoyed and we see each other and hear each other next time. Stay healthy. Bye bye. Vielen Dank wieder fürs Einschalten. Ich hoffe, es hat euch gefallen. Vergesst nicht, dem Kanal zu folgen auf Spotify oder Apple Podcast, um keinen Gast und keine spannende Folge mehr zu verpassen. Und lasst auch gerne ein paar Sterne als Bewertung da, wenn es euch gefallen hat. Damit hilft der Podcast unglaublich weiter zu wachsen und ihr zaubert mir ein riesen Lächeln aufs Gesicht. Vielen, vielen lieben Dank. Bleibt sauber, seid lieb zueinander.